In the heart of the battlefield, amidst the chaos and carnage of war, medic Zinnia moved with practiced precision. Her four slender arms worked tirelessly, patching up wounds and administering life-saving treatments to her fellow soldiers. The smell of blood and burnt metal filled the air, mingling with the cries of the injured and the dying. Zinnia's species, the Krill, were known for their medical prowess, and she took pride in her ability to save lives. But today was different. Today, the enemy was relentless, and even her advanced medical knowledge seemed inadequate against the sheer brutality of the conflict. She had just finished stabilizing a Krill soldier when she heard a shout that made her blood run cold. "Medic! Over here, quickly!" The voice belonged to Captain Thal, one of the human officers leading the charge. Zinnia hurried over, her heart pounding in her chest. What she saw made her gasp in horror. A human soldier, barely recognizable beneath the layers of blood and grime, lay on the ground. His armor was shredded, and his body was riddled with deep, gaping wounds. Blood oozed from multiple lacerations, and one of his legs was twisted at an unnatural angle. "How is he still alive?" Zinnia muttered to herself, kneeling beside the soldier. Her hands moved instinctively, assessing the extent of his injuries. She had seen humans endure incredible pain before, but this was beyond anything she had ever witnessed. The soldier's eyes fluttered open, and he looked up at her with a steely determination that sent shivers down her spine. "Doc, don't bother patching me up. Just give me a weapon." Zinnia shook her head, her mind racing. "You need immediate medical attention. These wounds are critical." He gritted his teeth, struggling to sit up. "No time for that. We have to push forward. Can't let them win." Captain Thal knelt beside them, his face etched with concern. "He's right, medic. We need every able body we can get. Can you at least stabilize him?" Zinnia hesitated, her professional instincts at war with the grim reality of their situation. Finally, she nodded. "I'll do what I can." With swift, practiced movements, she injected the soldier with a potent cocktail of painkillers and stimulants. She used a portable cauterizer to seal his most severe wounds, slowing the bleeding to a trickle. Her hands worked with a mechanical efficiency, but her mind was reeling. How could any being endure such pain and still have the will to fight? As she worked, the soldier's breathing steadied, and he managed to sit up, leaning heavily on Captain Thal. "Thanks, Doc," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Now give me a gun." Zinnia handed him a weapon, her eyes wide with disbelief. "You're insane," she murmured. "You should be dead." He managed a weak smile. "Maybe, but humans, we don't give up so easily." With Thal's help, the soldier rose to his feet, swaying unsteadily. Zinnia watched in awe as he limped back towards the front lines, his resolve unbroken despite his horrific injuries. She had always respected the humans for their resilience, but today she saw it in a new light. The battle raged on, and Zinnia continued her work, her mind constantly drifting back to the soldier. She lost track of time, her hands moving on autopilot as she treated one injury after another. The sounds of war were a constant backdrop, a grim reminder of the stakes they faced. Hours later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the fighting began to subside. Exhausted, Zinnia finally allowed herself a moment to rest. She sat down heavily, her body aching from the day's exertion. Captain Thal approached her, his face grim but relieved. "We did it," he said quietly. "We pushed them back." Zinnia nodded, too tired to speak. She looked around at the battlefield, now littered with the bodies of the fallen. Her gaze drifted to a figure in the distance, a familiar silhouette standing amidst the wreckage. It was the soldier, the one who should have been dead hours ago. He was still standing, still fighting, his determination unyielding. Zinnia's breath caught in her throat as she watched him. How could one being possess such strength, such unwavering resolve? As if sensing her gaze, the soldier turned and raised a hand in a weary salute. Zinnia managed a weak smile, her respect for the humans deepening with every passing moment. In that moment, she understood something profound about her allies. It wasn't just their technology or their strategies that made them formidable. It was their spirit, their indomitable will to fight against all odds. And as long as they had that, Zinnia knew they would never be truly defeated. The aftermath. The night brought an eerie silence to the battlefield. The once deafening sounds of gunfire and explosions were replaced by the occasional moan of the injured and the whispered conversations of survivors. Zinnia moved through the makeshift medical tent, her 4 arms working tirelessly to tend to the wounded. Despite her exhaustion, the memory of the human soldier's resilience kept her going. As dawn approached, Zinnia finally allowed herself to take a brief rest. She sat down on a crate outside the tent, looking out at the first light breaking over the horizon. The battlefield was a haunting sight, the remnants of war scattered across the landscape. "Mind if I join you?" a familiar voice asked. Zinnia looked up to see Captain Thal approaching, his expression weary but determined. She nodded, and he sat down beside her. "You did good work today, Medic," Thal said, his voice heavy with gratitude. "We wouldn't have made it without you." Zinnia shook her head. It wasn't just me. Everyone played their part. But that soldier, she trailed off, her mind still grappling with what she had witnessed. Thal nodded, understanding her unspoken thoughts. Humans are a stubborn bunch. We have a way of pushing through even when it seems impossible. "Where is he now?" Zinnia asked, her curiosity getting the better of her. Thal pointed to a figure resting against a pile of rubble a short distance away. "There he is, Sergeant James Carter, one of the toughest soldiers I've ever known." Zinnia stood up, her legs feeling like lead, and made her way over to Carter. As she approached, she could see that he was in rough shape. Despite the painkillers and stimulants she had administered, his wounds were severe, and his body was clearly struggling to cope. "Sergeant Carter," she said softly, kneeling beside him. "How are you feeling?" Carter opened his eyes, managing a weak smile. "I've been better, Doc, but I've also been worse." Zinnia couldn't help but chuckle. "You're a remarkable soldier. I've never seen anyone fight through such injuries." He shrugged, wincing slightly. "Just doing my job. We all have to play our part, right? Your part today went above and beyond," Zinnia said, her tone serious. "You need proper medical treatment, Carter. You can't keep pushing yourself like this." Carter's eyes hardened with determination. "I can't rest yet. The battle might be over, but the war isn't. We still have a long way to go." Zinnia placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Let us help you. We have to take care of each other if we're going to make it through this." He sighed, his resolve wavering for a moment. "Maybe you're right, Doc, but it's hard to stand down when there's still so much at stake." Zinnia nodded, understanding the burden he carried. "We'll get through this, Carter. Together." Over the next few days, the Kirill and human forces worked side by side to fortify their position and tend to the wounded. Zinnia spent most of her time in the medical tent, her hands never idle. She found herself constantly checking on Carter, his presence a reminder of the resilience and determination that defined their alliance. Despite his injuries, Carter continued to push himself, refusing to stay bedridden for long. He helped wherever he could, his indomitable spirit inspiring those around him. Zinnia watched in awe as he moved through the camp, offering words of encouragement and lending a hand wherever it was needed. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and red, Carter approached Zinnia outside the medical tent. He looked slightly better, his wounds healing slowly but surely. "Doc," he said, his voice softer than usual, "I wanted to thank you for everything." Zinnia smiled, her heart warming at his words. "Just doing my job, Sergeant. But you're welcome." He hesitated for a moment, then continued, "You know, I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about taking care of each other. You were right. We can't win this alone. We need each other." Zinnia nodded, her eyes meeting his. "Exactly. Together, we're stronger, and together, we will win this war." As the days turned into weeks, the bond between the Kirill and the humans grew stronger. They fought side by side, their combined strength and determination a force to be reckoned with. Zinnia continued to be amazed by the human spirit, their resilience and unwavering will to fight against all odds. And every time she saw Carter, still pushing forward despite his injuries, she was reminded of the strength that lay within them all, a strength that, united, would lead them to victory. In the end, it wasn't just their weapons or strategies that won the war. It was their spirit, their unbreakable bond, and their determination to stand together in the face of adversity. And as the final battle drew to a close, Zinnia knew that they had forged something truly extraordinary. They had become a family, bound by the trials of war and the unyielding belief that together they could overcome anything. The rising storm. The war had entered a new phase, with the Kirill and human forces taking the fight to the enemy's strongholds. Their combined efforts had turned the tide, but the battles were growing fiercer and the stakes higher. Zinnia's medical tent had become a critical hub of activity, treating an endless stream of wounded soldiers from both species. Sergeant James Carter was a constant presence, his indomitable spirit inspiring those around him. Despite his severe injuries, he continued to push himself to the limit, refusing to let anything stand in his way. His bravery had become legendary, and his name was spoken with reverence throughout the camp. One night, as Zinnia was finishing her rounds, Captain Thal approached her with a grim expression. "We have intelligence about the enemy's next move," he said. "They're planning a major offensive. We need to be ready." Zinnia nodded, her mind racing. "What can I do to help?" Thal sighed. "We need every able-bodied soldier we can get. But more than that, we need your expertise. The enemy's been using some kind of biological weapon. Our soldiers are coming back with symptoms we can't explain." Zinnia's eyes widened in concern. "I'll do everything I can to figure it out." The next morning, Zinnia set up a special lab within the medical tent to analyze the symptoms. She worked tirelessly, collecting samples and running tests, her forearms moving with practiced precision. The Kirill's advanced medical technology gave her an edge, but the enemy's weapon was unlike anything she had ever encountered. Carter visited her lab frequently, offering his support and encouragement. "How's it going, Doc?" he asked one afternoon, leaning against the doorway. Zinnia looked up from her microscope, her face lined with worry. "It's not good, Carter. This weapon, it's designed to attack the nervous system. It's slow-acting but deadly." Carter frowned. "Can you find a cure?" "I'm working on it," Zinnia replied, her voice determined. "But I need more time." Time was a luxury they didn't have. The enemy's offensive began sooner than expected, catching the Kirill and human forces off guard. The battlefield erupted in chaos, with explosions and gunfire creating a deafening cacophony. Zinnia's lab became a triage center, her medical team working around the clock to treat the influx of wounded. The symptoms of the biological weapon were becoming more prevalent, and Zinnia knew they were running out of options. Carter was in the thick of the fighting, leading his squad with unwavering determination. Despite his injuries, he fought with a ferocity that inspired his comrades. But as the battle raged on, he found himself facing an enemy he couldn't defeat with sheer willpower alone. Zinnia was treating a soldier when she heard a commotion outside the tent. She rushed out to find Carter being carried in by two of his squad mates. His face was pale, and he was barely conscious. "Get him on the table," Zinnia ordered, her heart pounding in her chest. She could see the telltale signs of the biological weapon's effects. His nervous system was shutting down. "Hang in there, Carter," she whispered, her hands moving swiftly to administer treatment. She injected him with a powerful antidote she had been developing, praying it would be enough. Hours passed in a blur as Zinnia fought to save Carter's life. Her medical team worked in tandem, their efforts focused on stabilizing him. Finally, as dawn approached, his condition began to improve. Carter's eyes fluttered open, and he looked up at Zinnia. "Doc, did we win?" Zinnia smiled, relief flooding through her. "We're still fighting, but you need to rest. Let us handle this." He shook his head weakly. "No, I can't give up. We need to finish this." Zinnia placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You've done more than enough, Carter. Let us take it from here." As Carter drifted back into unconsciousness, Zinnia felt a surge of determination. She had to find a way to stop this weapon and save her comrades. She worked tirelessly, refining the antidote and developing a treatment protocol that could be administered on the battlefield. The fighting continued, but the tide was turning once again. Zinnia's antidote was making a difference, and the soldiers' spirits were lifted by the knowledge that they had a chance to survive. Captain Thal came to her lab one evening, his face filled with admiration. "You did it, Zinnia. You've given us hope." She shook her head, her expression serious. "It's not over yet. We need to push forward and take the fight to the enemy. We can't let them use this weapon again." Thal nodded. "Agreed, and with soldiers like Carter leading the charge, I believe we can do it." The final battle was fierce and brutal, but the combined strength of the Kirill and human forces proved unstoppable. They fought with everything they had, their determination unyielding. Zinnia's antidote saved countless lives, and her medical team worked tirelessly to keep the soldiers in the fight. In the end, they emerged victorious. The enemy was defeated, and the biological weapon was neutralized. The battlefield fell silent, and a sense of relief washed over the survivors. Carter, still recovering from his ordeal, stood alongside Zinnia as they looked out at the aftermath of the battle. "We did it, Doc," he said, his voice filled with pride. Zinnia smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Yes, we did, and we did it together." As they looked out at the dawn of a new day, Zinnia knew that their bond, forged in the crucible of war, would endure. They had faced unimaginable challenges and emerged stronger for it. And as long as they stood together, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. The peace we fought for, with the war behind them, the Kirill and human forces began the long process of rebuilding. The scars of battle were evident everywhere, but so was the resilience and determination that had carried them to victory. The alliance between the two species had grown stronger, forged in the fires of conflict and tempered by mutual respect. Zinnia's medical tent had transformed into a recovery center, where soldiers from both species recuperated side by side. The atmosphere was one of cautious optimism as they adapted to a new world order shaped by their combined efforts. Carter was one of the last to leave the medical center. His recovery had been slow but steady, and his spirit remained as indomitable as ever. One morning, as he prepared to leave, Zinnia approached him, her expression a mix of relief and admiration. "You're looking much better," she said, her forearms crossing in a gesture of satisfaction. Carter grinned. "Thanks to you, Doc. I owe you my life." Zinnia shook her head. "You owe me nothing, Carter. We all fought for this peace. Now it's time to build it." As the days turned into weeks, the Krill and humans worked together to repair the damage caused by the war. Cities were rebuilt, infrastructure was restored, and new communities began to emerge. The collaboration between the two species extended beyond the battlefield, as they shared knowledge, technology, and culture. Zinnia and Carter became symbols of this new era. Their story of courage and cooperation was told and retold, inspiring others to embrace the spirit of unity. They traveled together to various outposts and settlements, spreading a message of hope and resilience. One day, they visited a remote village that had been particularly hard hit by the war. The villagers greeted them with a mixture of awe and gratitude, their faces lighting up as they recognized the heroes who had played a pivotal role in their liberation. As they walked through the village, Carter noticed a group of children playing with makeshift toys. One of the children, a young Kirill girl, approached him hesitantly. "Are you the human who kept fighting even when you were hurt?" she asked, her large eyes filled with curiosity. Carter knelt down to her level, smiling warmly. "Yes, that was me, but I didn't do it alone. My friends helped me." The girl's eyes widened. "Is it true that humans and Kirill can be friends now?" "Absolutely," Carter replied, glancing at Zinnia, who stood nearby, watching with a smile. "We're stronger together. We can accomplish great things when we work as one." The girl's face lit up, and she ran off to tell her friends. Carter stood up, his heart swelling with pride. He looked at Zinnia, who nodded in approval. "You've become quite the role model," she said, her tone teasing. Carter chuckled. "Not just me. We both have." As they continued their journey, Carter and Zinnia encountered countless stories of resilience and recovery. They saw firsthand the impact of their efforts and the profound changes taking place across the galaxy. The war had left deep wounds, but it had also planted the seeds of a new era of cooperation and understanding. One evening, as they sat by a campfire under a starlit sky, Carter turned to Zinnia. "Do you ever think about what's next?" Zinnia looked thoughtful. "All the time. There's so much we can do. So many possibilities." Carter nodded. "I've been thinking about helping with the rebuilding efforts. There's a lot of work to be done." Zinnia smiled. "I think that's a wonderful idea. Your determination and leadership could inspire others to join the cause." "And you?" Carter asked. "What's next for you?" Zinnia sighed contentedly. "I want to continue my work in medicine. There are still so many lives to be saved, so much to learn, and I want to help bridge the gap between our species. There's still a lot of mistrust, but I believe we can overcome it." Carter reached out and took her hand, his grip firm and reassuring. "Together, we can do anything." As they sat in comfortable silence, gazing at the stars, they felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The war had tested them in ways they had never imagined, but it had also brought them together, forging a bond that would endure for a lifetime. In the years that followed, Carter and Zinnia dedicated themselves to the cause of peace and unity. They became ambassadors of hope, their efforts touching countless lives and paving the way for a brighter future. Their story was a testament to the power of resilience, determination, and the unbreakable spirit of those who refuse to give up. And as the galaxy moved forward, forever changed by their courage and sacrifice, Carter and Zinnia knew that the peace they had fought for was just the beginning. Together, they would continue to build a world where all beings could thrive, united in their quest for a better tomorrow. A legacy of unity. Years passed, and the galaxy continued to heal and rebuild. The alliance between the Kirill and humans grew stronger, and their cooperative efforts became a model for interspecies relations across the cosmos. The story of Zinnia and Carter became a legend, inspiring future generations to strive for unity and peace. Zinnia had become a renowned medical leader, her innovations in the field saving countless lives. Her work extended beyond traditional medicine, incorporating Kirill and human techniques to create more effective treatments. She established medical academies that trained both Kirill and human doctors, fostering a new generation of healers who carried her vision forward. Carter, too, had found his calling in rebuilding efforts. He led projects to restore war-torn planets, turning desolate landscapes into thriving communities. His leadership and determination continued to inspire those around him, and his unwavering commitment to the cause earned him respect across the galaxy. Despite their busy lives, Zinnia and Carter remained close friends. They often visited each other's projects, offering support and celebrating their shared successes. Their bond was a testament to the strength of their partnership, a symbol of what could be achieved when different species worked together. One day, as they were visiting a newly established settlement on a distant planet, they were approached by a young human and Kirill duo, clearly eager to meet the legendary heroes. "Excuse me," the young human said, her eyes shining with excitement. "Are you Sergeant Carter and Medic Zinnia?" Carter smiled warmly. "Yes, that's us. How can we help you?" The young Kirill, with a shy smile, stepped forward. "We've heard so much about you. We're part of the new generation of peacekeepers, and your story has inspired us to join the effort. We want to help build the future you've fought so hard for." Zinnia's eyes filled with pride. "We're honored to meet you. The future is in good hands with young leaders like you." The young duo beamed, their determination evident. "Thank you. We hope to make you proud." As the young peacekeepers left, Carter turned to Zinnia, his expression thoughtful. "It's amazing to see how far we've come. From the horrors of war to this. It feels like a dream." Zinnia nodded, her gaze distant. "We've accomplished so much, but there's always more to do. Our work will never truly be done, but that's what makes it worthwhile." Carter chuckled. "You're right, as always. And I wouldn't have it any other way." As they walked through the bustling settlement, they were approached by an elderly Kirill, her eyes twinkling with wisdom. "Excuse me, but I couldn't help but overhear. You two are the reason this place exists. My grandchildren live here, and they have a future because of you." Zinnia and Carter exchanged a glance, their hearts swelling with emotion. "Thank you," Zinnia said softly. "Knowing we've made a difference is the greatest reward we could ask for." The elderly Kirill smiled warmly. "You've done more than make a difference. You've given us hope, and that is something that will never be forgotten." As the years continued to pass, Zinnia and Carter's legacy grew. They were honored with numerous awards and recognitions, but their true satisfaction came from seeing the fruits of their labor. The galaxy was a better place because of their efforts, and their story continued to inspire countless beings. One evening, as they sat together on a hill overlooking a thriving new city, Carter turned to Zinnia. Do you ever wonder what our lives would have been like if we hadn't met on that battlefield? Zinnia smiled, her eyes reflecting the golden sunset. I do. But I believe we were meant to meet, meant to fight together. Our paths were intertwined for a reason. Carter nodded, his expression thoughtful. I'm glad they were. We've accomplished so much together, and will continue to do so. Zinnia replied, her voice filled with determination. Our work is far from over. As they sat in comfortable silence, watching the city below come alive with lights, they felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They had faced unimaginable challenges, but they had emerged stronger, united by their shared vision of a better future. Their story was a testament to the power of resilience, the strength of unity, and the unbreakable spirit of those who refused to give up. And as the stars shone brightly above, Zinnia and Carter knew that their legacy would endure, inspiring future generations to continue the work they had begun. Together, they had built a world where all beings could thrive, united in their quest for peace and prosperity. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all.